Yesterday, we talked about that fun pop song from the late 70s called We're Spirits in the Material World. And I really do hold with that. And yet, that may not exactly be, be our experience. And so, the topic this week has been bearing the true witness that we are, in fact, spiritual beings capable of. If you go to the airport and you look at those big, magnificent planes that everybody's boarding at the various terminals, that imagine if those planes just all they could really do is just taxi around. It would be somewhat absurd because planes make terrible buses, and you get on your plane and your 737, instead of going out to the runway, it goes and gets on the freeway, and you know, bunch of planes going 65 miles an hour, and planes were meant to fly, and we were meant to fly, but that's not the experience from the start of our life. We're thrown into life, and almost everyone's life describes sort of a very thick, murky deceleration into the thick tangle of materiality. Huh, I like that. A descent, a deceleration into the thick, murky tangle of materiality. And we all experience that. Even a Jesus or a Krishna or a Muhammad or a Buddha, they weren't avatars when they were 3 years old. And so we're all sort of coming up out of that. We're all planes that are taxiing around on the runway, and we're somewhat clumsy and inefficient and ineffective. We don't really shine until we get to that point where we finally take spiritual flight. It's as if we have wings, but wings need a sufficient amount of momentum and energy and movement before they'll take off. And we're all in that stage, and that's okay. None of this needs to be rushed. And we're all on this path of moving up toward demonstrating who we really are. And this significant deceleration that we go through, so everybody goes through it. No one's immune from it. We might say that in one human lifetime, the great adventure of any one human in one human lifetime is the everybody has in common the deceleration into the thick, murky tangle of materiality and its concerns, our bodies and our livelihood and making money and having kids and having relationships, and then our emotional life and the emotional tangles and the grief and the sorrow and learning to temper emotions, and then our psychology and what we're thinking, and are our thoughts accurate, or are we lost in delusion? Subject to um, are we subject to delusion? Have we absorbed a lot of bad ideas? And all of these layers of our being have to be redeemed. And we might think of Maslow's um, pyramid or hierarchy of evolution. We're moving up that scale. But it's this remembrance that in the midst of all that, we all are 737s waiting to take off. And I'll close with this. In the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, which is considered the great Bible of yoga, um, of esoteric yoga, it's a lot of the primary lines you hear me talk about, like yoga is the stilling of the movement of our mind. That great scripture has 4 chapters, and hardly anybody talks about the third chapter. It's called Vibhuti Pati, and it means the yoga of powers. And it talks about the things we'll be able to do when we acquire our true nature, when yoga is sufficient, that we are lifted up to a point of being able to fly. And some of these powers, if you read them, you would just say, whoever wrote this is crazy. We can disappear, we can get very small, we can get very large, we can bilocate, we can be in Washington, D.C., and then be in San Francisco in instantaneously. We can read people's minds, we can heal people instantly. And if you read the book Autobiography of a Yogi, which is one of the great spiritual bestsellers of the 20th century, uh, he talks about the activation of a great number of these powers. He's either insane or we all have that in potentia, you might say. So the topic this week is we shall bear true witness. And if we're bearing false witness, if we're decelerating into the thick, murky tangle of materiality, we shall come out of it. But there's a declaration inside of us that says, in effect, I shall arise and go into my Father, my truth, my wisdom. And if you make that declaration and make every day a willingness to rise up from the limitation and constraint of our mortal self, we will assuredly reach there together. He said, not choking horribly, I hope you got something from it this week, and we can all chat about it tomorrow, and let's rise up together. I'll see you.